It was just after sunset when the sparks from the welder hissed against the cold steel, casting blue light across the dimly lit garage. And Sam Weller, 43 years old, grease on his hands, sweat on his brow, heart heavy but steady, wiped his face with a rag and tightened the last bolt on what wasn't a car at all, but an old woman's wheelchair. The air smelled of oil and burnt rubber, the low hum of the radio barely covering the sound of wind scraping dust along the asphalt outside. The shop was supposed to close an hour ago, but Sam had stayed because that chair had belonged to Mrs. Eleanor Briggs, a widow who lived 2 streets down and whose wheelchair had broken at the grocery store earlier that day. She had no one to help her home except Sam, who saw her struggling in the parking lot and decided he couldn't turn away. He pushed her home himself, promised to fix it, and brought it into the shop without thinking twice. But what Sam didn't know was that someone had been watching. The security camera above the main door was still recording when he rolled the chair in, and by morning that footage would cost him everything. The next day began with the shriek of tires outside the shop, the boss's truck slamming into the parking spot like it owned the earth. Rick Dalton, the owner of Dalton Auto and Repair, stepped out wearing his usual smug grin, a man who built his small empire by underpaying everyone and selling used cars with hidden damage. He spotted Sam immediately and barked, "Weller, my office now." Sam wiped his hands, walked in quietly, and stood before the desk covered in invoices, coffee stains, and a silver lighter engraved with RD. Rick tossed a printed still from the camera feed onto the table, Sam kneeling beside the wheelchair. "You fix this for free?" he demanded. "Yes, sir," Sam replied calmly. Woman couldn't move. "Took me an hour." Rick's grin faded into a sneer. "You know what this is? Theft of company property. You used my tools, my shop time, my power. You cost me money for something that's not our job." Sam's jaw tightened, his voice controlled. "It's a wheelchair, Rick. She needed help." Rick slammed his fist on the desk, eyes blazing. "You're not a charity worker. You're a mechanic. You think I built this business letting bleeding hearts do favors on my time?" Sam stood silently for a moment before replying, "I think you built it forgetting what it's like to be human." Rick stared at him like he'd been slapped, then smiled coldly. "You're fired. Clear your bench and get out." The words hit like a wrench to the chest, but Sam didn't flinch. He'd been fired before, though never for doing something right. He nodded, left the office, and packed his things. His wrench set, the photo of his late father from his army days, and the small steel tag from his own military service. He didn't say goodbye to anyone. The other mechanics watched in silence, some with sympathy, others with fear that speaking might make them next. By the time Sam stepped out into the parking lot, the wind had picked up, and thunder rolled over the valley like a warning. He walked home under a bruised sky, his boots heavy, his mind heavier. His old pickup sat in the driveway, one headlight cracked, but it started on the first turn of the key, just like it always had. He drove to Eleanor's house one last time to return her chair. She opened the door, frail but smiling, and thanked him with tears in her eyes. "You didn't have to do this, Sam," she said softly. "Nobody else would have," he smiled faintly. "That's why I did." He didn't mention he'd lost his job over it. When he returned home later, the night felt strange, too quiet, too still. He sat on his porch with a beer, staring at the road until the last light died. Around midnight, he heard a low hum in the distance. Engines. More than one. He stood, the sound growing louder, lights flickering between the trees. 7 black SUVs rolled down the road in perfect formation, headlights cutting through the dark like knives. They stopped at the end of his gravel drive, engines idling. The air vibrated with tension. Sam set down his beer, every instinct in his body shifting. Doors opened in unison, and figures in dark suits stepped out. No badges visible, no markings. He could tell from the way they moved that they weren't regular law enforcement. One of them, a tall man with a clean shave and eyes like winter, walked forward, stopping just shy of the porch steps. "Samuel Weller?" he asked. Sam nodded, his pulse steady but alert. "That's me." The man glanced at a small tablet in his hand, then back up. "We need to talk. About something that happened yesterday." Sam frowned. You mean the shop? No, the man said. About the woman you helped. A chill rippled through Sam's chest. Eleanor? The man didn't answer directly. She's not who you think she is. Sam's voice dropped. Then who is she? The man's jaw tightened. Get in the car. We'll explain on the way. Sam took a step back. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's going on. Another man by the SUV opened his jacket just enough for Sam to see the black holster underneath. The first man raised a hand slightly. We're not here to hurt you. But time's running out! Thunder cracked overhead, the wind whipping harder. What do you want with her? Sam demanded. She's an old lady in a wheelchair. The man looked almost regretful. That's what she wanted everyone to believe. Sam's grip tightened on the railing, the boards creaking beneath his boots. You're saying she lied? She disappeared this morning, the agent said, his tone low and final. And your name was the last one she spoke before she vanished. The words hung in the air like a blade. Sam exhaled slowly, the weight of something far bigger than he understood pressing down on him. You think I had something to do with that? We think, the man said, stepping closer, that you're the only person who can help us find her. Behind him, the SUV's engines revved softly, like a heartbeat counting down. Sam's gaze darted between the men, his mind racing through possibilities. Mrs. Briggs, a government witness, a fugitive, or worse. He remembered her trembling hands when she thanked him, the way her eyes darted to the street as if she expected someone to appear. Something about her had seemed off, but he'd dismissed it as fear of loneliness. Now it felt like the entire night had been a setup. If you're telling the truth, Sam said quietly, you'd better start explaining fast. The man reached into his coat and pulled out a small photo, grainy, taken from surveillance. It showed Mrs. Briggs sitting in her wheelchair at the grocery store. But next to her, half cropped out of frame, was a younger woman in a dark coat holding her arm, looking around cautiously. Who's that? Sam asked. Her caretaker? The agent nodded. That's what the paper said. But that woman was identified yesterday as a missing operative from a classified federal program. Sam's chest went cold. Operative? And Mrs. Briggs, the agent continued, isn't Eleanor Briggs. Her real name is Evelyn Bryce. She used to run a covert logistics network for the Department of Defense 20 years ago, until she vanished with several classified assets. Sam stared, disbelief and dread mixing in his throat. You're telling me I fixed a spy's wheelchair? The man didn't smile. You didn't just fix it. You might have reactivated something inside it. Inside the wheelchair? Sam said incredulously. It's a chair, not a bomb. That's what we need to confirm, the agent replied. Our scanners picked up encrypted transmissions from the area last night. Signals we've traced back to this location. Sam's voice hardened. So now you think I'm part of it? We think you're caught in the middle of something dangerous, the man said evenly. And whoever's looking for her will come here next. Lightning flashed, revealing the tension in every face. You've got about 10 minutes before that happens. Sam looked past him at the dark road beyond the SUVs, at the forest stretching into the valley. His old soldier instincts kicked in. Threat assessment, escape routes, fallback positions. And what if I say no? He asked quietly. The agent met his gaze. Then you'd better start running now. The wind howled through the trees, and for a heartbeat, the world held still. Then, far off down the road, a distant engine roared, a different pitch, deeper, heavier. The agent turned toward the sound, cursed under his breath, and barked, "Positions!" The men scrambled, taking cover behind the SUVs. What's happening? Sam demanded, but the agent didn't answer. Headlights appeared in the distance, 2, then 4, then 8, moving fast. Another convoy. Sam could feel the tremor of engines through the ground. Whoever they weren't coming for peace talks. The agent looked back at him. Get in the car, Weller, now! But before Sam could move, gunfire erupted down the road, tearing through the night. The forest exploded with flashes of light. Bullets hit gravel near the driveway, glass shattered, and the SUV's lights flickered. Sam ducked, heart pounding as chaos unfolded. The agent drew his weapon and shouted orders, but the attackers were already too close. Sam dove behind the porch pillar as a bullet whizzed past his head. "Who are they?" he yelled. The agent fired back, shouting, "The reason she disappeared!" A grenade detonated near the tree line, sending dirt and fire skyward. Sam grabbed the fallen agent's pistol and rolled behind cover as one SUV burst into flames. In that moment, one thought cut through the noise. Whatever Eleanor or Evelyn had been hiding, it was worth killing for. And now it was on his doorstep. The night exploded into chaos as gunfire cracked through the valley, the muzzle flashes tearing holes in the darkness, and Sam Weller dropped to the dirt behind a splintered porch beam while the air filled with the metallic whine of ricochets. The first SUV erupted in a burst of flame, the shockwave knocking him flat, glass raining down around him like glittering ash. He could hear the agents shouting orders, their voices drowned beneath the roar of engines as the unknown attackers stormed closer. His ears rang, his breath came fast, and the smell of burning gasoline coated his tongue. A figure in black tactical gear darted past the porch, firing into the chaos, his mask reflecting the firelight. Sam didn't know who to trust anymore, the supposed government agents who had blocked his driveway, or the killers now charging in from the woods. All he knew was that someone wanted something, and he was in the way. The lead agent, the one with the winter eyes, was shouting into a radio, demanding backup that wasn't coming. "They found us! I repeat, hostile contact confirmed. Extraction compromised!" he yelled. Then his signal cut with a burst of static. Sam crawled toward the fallen pistol he'd dropped, grabbed it, and fired twice at a shadow moving through the flames. The recoil jolted him back into the instincts he thought he'd buried with his army service. Clear mind, tight aim, no hesitation. The man he hit crumpled silently. When the gun clicked empty, Sam ducked behind the porch again, pulse hammering. One of the SUVs exploded in a thunderous bloom of fire, sending two agents flying backward. He grabbed the nearest one, dragging him behind cover. "You alive?" he shouted. The man coughed, nodding weakly, blood streaking down his temple. "They're not mercenaries," he rasped. "They're cleaners," Sam frowned. "Cleaners? Government?" "Black unit. Erase evidence? No questions." Sam stared through the smoke, realization dawning like a blade to the gut. "You mean they're here to erase her?" The agent nodded, then slumped unconscious. The other men returned fire from behind the wreckage, but the attackers moved with terrifying precision, two flanking left, one scaling the side of Sam's house. Sam heard the creak of wood above him and rolled, just as a boot crashed through the roof edge. He fired up instinctively. The man fell, and Sam grabbed his rifle before sprinting around the side yard. The field behind his house glowed red with firelight, and somewhere in the woods beyond, the echoes of more engines rumbled closer. He spotted the lead agent ducking behind an overturned SUV, reloading. "We need to move," the man shouted. "They'll torch the property and sweep the perimeter in minutes." Sam fired at a silhouette approaching through the smoke. "Where the hell are we supposed to go?" he yelled back. The agent pointed toward the forest. "There's an access tunnel under the ridge, old power substation. We regroup there." Sam hesitated, looking at the burning vehicles, the ruined home behind him, the life he'd spent 10 years trying to rebuild, now turning to ash in one night. "You're dragging me into something I don't understand," he said bitterly. The agent's tone was grim. "You understand enough. You fixed the wrong woman's chair." Sam clenched his jaw, grabbed his duffel from the porch, and followed as the agent broke into a run across the field. Bullets chased them through the night, sparks leaping off the dirt. They reached the tree line just as another explosion ripped through what was left of his home. The shockwave sent branches snapping and the earth trembling. Sam stumbled forward, the agent pulling him by the arm until they disappeared into the shadows. They didn't stop running for nearly a mile, lungs burning, until the roar of engines faded behind them. The forest was wet, black and silent but for the whisper of rain starting to fall. The agent leaned against a tree, panting. "You ever kill anyone before, Weller?" Sam gave him a sharp look. "Not since the uniform." "Then get ready to remember how." The agent handed him a loaded magazine, then pressed a small comm device into his palm. "You want answers, you'll get them, but only if we survive the next few hours." Sam wanted to throw the radio back in his face. demand the truth right now, but the urgency in the man's eyes stopped him. They moved deeper into the woods until they reached a rusted metal hatch half buried beneath vines. The agent knelt, punched in a code on a keypad hidden beneath a fake rock, and the hatch released with a hiss. "After you," he said. Sam climbed down the ladder into pitch blackness, the air damp and metallic. The tunnel stretched ahead, lined with old cables and dripping pipes. They walked in silence until the agent stopped at a reinforced door, slid his badge through a scanner, and led Sam into a small underground operations room, lit by a single flickering bulb. Maps covered the walls, old monitors displayed grainy surveillance feeds, and in the center lay a metal case the size of a suitcase. "What is this place?" Sam asked, his voice echoing. "A forgotten piece of infrastructure," the agent replied. "We use it for off-grid containment when things go wrong. Like tonight? Worse!" The agent set the metal case on the table and opened it. Inside were fragments of a mechanical chassis, gears, circuits, and what looked like a power core with faint blue light pulsing inside. Sam frowned. "What is that?" "Part of the wheelchair you fixed." Sam stepped back. "What are you talking about?" "I gave it back to her. It was fine." The agent met his eyes. "We found this after she vanished. It was under her floorboards. You triggered it when you reconnected the power supply." Sam stared at the core, the truth unfolding too fast to catch. "Triggered what?" "A dead man signal," the agent said. "A distress beacon tied to a covert data archive, one we thought was destroyed 15 years ago. The moment you powered that chair, her encryption network woke up." Sam ran a hand through his hair. "So all this, these people, the attack, it's because I plugged in a battery?" "You reactivated something everyone wanted to stay buried," the agent said. "Evelyn Bryce didn't just steal files. She took the key to an entire Black Ops ledger, names, transactions, operations, things that could collapse multiple agencies if released." Sam's voice dropped. "And she's been hiding as a crippled old woman in my town?" "Yes," the agent said. "Until yesterday. Now everyone's looking for her. And for you." Sam turned away, trying to steady his thoughts, but the walls felt like they were closing in. "Why me? I don't know anything." "Because she trusted you," the agent said quietly. "Our records show she never spoke to anyone in public except you." Sam blinked. "That can't be right. I just helped her cross the street sometimes." "That's why she picked you. Invisible, decent, predictable." He paused. "And you have a background in mechanical electronics." "You think she didn't know?" Sam swallowed hard. "You said she disappeared. How?" The agent's eyes darkened. "She was taken." "By who?" The agent hesitated. "The same people who attacked your house." Sam leaned forward, fury rising. "Then stop talking in circles. Who are they?" "A private group," the agent said reluctantly. "Former intelligence contractors gone rogue. They call themselves the Black Spine. They specialize in extraction and erasure of assets too dangerous for the system to acknowledge. They were hired to retrieve Bryce years ago, but failed. Now they found her signal again. Thanks to that chair." Sam slammed his fist on the table. "So they burned my life to the ground for a goddamn beacon?" "You were collateral," the agent said, not unkindly. "I'm sorry." "Sorry won't rebuild my house," Sam snapped. "Or the people who might be dead because of it." "You want payback?" the agent asked. "Then help us stop them." "Bryce left something with you." Sam froze. "What?" "When you returned the chair, did she give you anything? A box, a card, anything unusual?" Sam thought back, the memory hazy. "She handed me a folded paper. Said it was a thank you note. I left it on my counter." The agent stiffened. "Then it's gone." "The cleaners would have taken everything." Sam's stomach sank. "What was on it?" "Coordinates," the agent said grimly. "The location of the archive." He turned toward a monitor displaying satellite feeds, zoomed in on a remote industrial facility by the river. "That's where they'll go next." Sam crossed his arms. "And you're going to stop them?" "We're going to destroy what's there before they extract it." Sam stared at the map, jaw tight. "And if she's still alive?" "Then we get her out first." Rain drummed against the tunnel roof above, steady and cold. Sam looked at the flickering light, the blue glow of the strange power core, and felt the last remnants of his old life slipping away. "You said she trusted me," he murmured. "Then I'm not sitting this out." The agent nodded once. "Then gear up." Within minutes, Sam was wearing a vest, radio, and a borrowed rifle, the weight familiar and unwelcome all at once. They left through a side tunnel that opened near the river's edge, the storm overhead masking their movement. The world above was a blur of rain and mud. They moved through the dark woods toward the facility, a derelict water plant with rusted towers and flickering floodlights. The agent whispered into his comm, coordinating with unseen allies. Sam followed, senses sharp. As they neared the fence, a shadow moved ahead, two figures dragging someone limp between them. Lightning flashed, and Sam saw her face. Evelyn Bryce, bruised, bound, but alive. The sight froze him in place. The agent motioned for silence. "They're taking her inside." "We can't engage yet." "The hell we can't," Sam hissed, but the agent held firm. "If they reach the main chamber, they'll upload everything she stole." "That can't happen." "You said we'd get her out first," Sam shot back. "We will, but only if you listen." They waited as the mercenaries dragged her inside. Then, one by one, the team slipped through the breach in the fence. Inside the plant, the sound of dripping water echoed off concrete. Sam's heartbeat drowned out everything else. They advanced through corridors stinking of rust and mildew, the lights flickering overhead. Ahead, in a wide chamber filled with old turbines, the Black Spine were setting up equipment, servers, cables, monitors. In the center, Evelyn was tied to a chair, still trembling but conscious. A man in a black coat stood before her, speaking lowly, but Sam couldn't hear the words. He aimed his rifle, but the agent lowered it. "Not yet," he whispered. "They'll detect us." Then the black-coated man turned slightly, and Sam saw his face illuminated by the monitor's glow. Rick Dalton, his former boss. Sam's breath caught, rage flooding through him. The man who fired him stood there, calm as ever, now orchestrating whatever this nightmare was. "He's one of them?" Sam whispered. The agent nodded grimly. "Your boss runs a front for their logistics network. That's how they found her." Sam gritted his teeth. "Then he's mine." The agent shook his head. "Stay focused. We need that data core." But Sam was already moving. He slipped from cover, silent as the rain. Each step brought him closer to the man who'd cost him everything. Dalton was speaking to Evelyn now, voice cold and smooth. "You should have stayed gone, Evelyn. Now you'll die with your secrets." She lifted her chin weakly. "You don't understand. Once that archive opens, it won't just expose them, it'll expose you." Dalton's smirk faltered. "Then I'll make sure it never opens." He raised his gun. Sam moved before he could think, stepping out of the shadows and pressing his rifle to Dalton's temple. "Step away from her." Dalton froze. "Sam," he said, incredulous, "you should have stayed fired." "And you," Sam said through gritted teeth, "should have stayed human." The room exploded with motion, mercenaries shouting, weapons raising, but before anyone could fire, the power core in the middle of the servers pulsed violently, blue light spreading like veins across the machinery. Evelyn screamed, "It's too late! It's live!" The power surged, monitors flickering with encrypted data streams. "They're unlocking it remotely," the agent shouted from the doorway. "We need to shut it down now!" Dalton elbowed Sam and reached for the gun, but Sam caught him, slamming him into a steel beam. The rifle went skidding across the floor. The mercenaries opened fire, bullets sparking off metal. The agent's team returned fire, chaos erupting once more. Sam dove behind a console, grabbed his pistol, and fired back at a masked man charging him. Evelyn struggled against her restraints, yelling, "The chair! The core! It's linked! Pull the connector under the seat!" Sam crawled toward her through the hail of bullets, yanked open the chair's base, and found a cable glowing blue. "Now what?" he shouted. "Cut it!" she screamed. "Or everything in this building dies." Sam pulled his knife and slashed the cable. Instantly, the light dimmed, the servers shorted, and the screens went black. Silence fell, then a low humming sound began to build. The agent's voice came through the radio, panicked. "It's self-destructing. Everyone out!" Dalton lunged at Sam again, but Sam swung, knocking him back. then grabbed Evelyn and lifted her from the chair. The chamber lights flickered red, alarms blaring. The floor began to vibrate. "Move!" Sam shouted, carrying her toward the exit. The roof groaned as the machinery beneath them reached critical heat. They sprinted through the corridor, the air thick with smoke. Behind them, Dalton limped after them, gun raised. "You think this ends here?" he roared. "You don't even know what she's hiding." Sam turned, fired once, and Dalton fell backward into the flames. The explosion tore through the plant seconds later, the shockwave blasting Sam and Evelyn out through a side door into the mud. The world went white for a moment, then black smoke billowed into the sky. Sam gasped, coughing, as rain poured down, cooling the embers. Evelyn stirred in his arms, whispering weakly, "You don't know what you saved, Sam. Or what you doomed. What do you mean?" he asked, but her eyes fluttered shut. The agent stumbled over, helping him up. "She's alive," Sam said urgently. "We have to get her out." The agent nodded. "We will. But listen to me. What she triggered in that system wasn't just data. It was a signal." Sam's heart sank. "A signal to who?" The agent's expression was grim. "Whoever she was running from. And now they know her location." Sam stared at the burning facility, rain hissing on the wreckage, the faint hum of distant aircraft echoing in the clouds above. The agent grabbed his shoulder. "We need to move now!" But Sam couldn't look away from the horizon, where faint synchronized lights began to appear in the storm. Helicopters. More than one. The sky roared as they drew closer. Evelyn stirred again, her voice barely audible. "You don't understand, Sam. It's not over. The archive was only one of 7. Sam's blood ran cold as he looked up at the incoming aircraft, the lights spreading like a swarm across the night. 7 helicopters. 7 factions. 7 secrets ready to ignite the world. The storm raged louder as the first spotlight broke through the clouds and locked onto their position, and Sam realized that the war for the truth had only just begun. The roar of the helicopter above was deafening, cutting through the night like a screaming blade as Marcus and Evelyn took cover behind the crumbling remains of the barn. The downwash from its rotors churned up dust and debris, and for a moment the old mechanic thought his heart might stop right there, not from fear, but from the weight of not knowing what this all meant. The spotlight fixed on their hiding place, pinning them like prey in the open field. "Move!" Evelyn shouted over the chaos, pulling Marcus toward the old drainage tunnel that led beneath the east pasture. As bullets tore into the earth around them, Marcus followed, lungs burning, every footstep echoing with the truth that had begun to surface in his mind since the firefight at his driveway. None of this was random. "They found the 7th archive," Evelyn yelled once they were inside, her voice reverberating through the damp tunnel. The word struck him harder than any bullet. "What archive?" Marcus demanded, his voice raw. "The kind of thing your boss tried to sell and then bury," she said darkly, pressing forward through ankle-deep water. "The kind of thing that decides who lives freely and who gets silenced forever." When they emerged on the other side, the moon hung high and pale over the valley, and in the distance, the helicopter circled the ruins of Marcus's barn like a vulture. The air smelled of gunpowder and gasoline. Evelyn crouched low behind a pile of rocks, rummaging through her weathered satchel until she pulled out something wrapped in oilcloth. A key, old and tarnished, etched with strange geometric symbols. "This is one of them," she whispered, pressing it into Marcus's hand. "The key to Archive 3. They'll kill us for it if they know you have it." Marcus turned it over, feeling the weight of metal and meaning. "You said there were 7. Evelyn nodded grimly. 7 archives scattered across the country. Each one holds data and proof of what the Phoenix Project really was. Illegal human trials, off-book weapons testing, political blackmail, name it. Your boss, Rick Mason, was one of the middlemen. He helped hide the evidence in exchange for power." Marcus's mind reeled. He'd thought he was just a grease-stained nobody fixing cars for an ungrateful corporation. Now it turned out that his dismissal over helping a wheelchair-bound old woman had dragged him into something older, darker and vastly more dangerous than he could comprehend. They made their way toward the woods, guided by Evelyn's uncanny sense of direction. The further they walked, the more she seemed to transform, no longer frail or harmless, but sharp, calculated, as though every move had been rehearsed long ago. Marcus finally asked the question gnawing at him since the start. "Who are you really, Evelyn?" Her expression didn't change, but her eyes flickered with something cold. "I was part of it," she said. "Not by choice. I worked in logistics for the Phoenix Project when it began. I helped move shipments that were never supposed to exist, bodies, prototypes, classified data. And when I tried to expose them, they erased me. They took my name, my record, my family. I've been hiding ever since." She stopped walking and turned to face him fully. "You were never supposed to fire me that day. The system wanted to make sure anyone who came near me got cut off. But you broke protocol when you helped me fix that chair. The network flagged you. A branch cracked nearby." Marcus froze. Out of the dark emerged a man in tactical gear, one of the attackers from before, wounded, his shoulder slick with blood. He raised his gun weakly, eyes wide with pain. "You don't understand," he rasped. "It's not just about her. It's about what's buried under the plant." Marcus reacted first, lunging forward and disarming him, slamming the man against a tree. "What's under it?" he demanded. The soldier coughed, a dry, rattling sound. "Vault Theta. 7 containment units. Biological. Unstable." Before Marcus could press further, the man's eyes rolled back, and his body went limp. Evelyn knelt beside him, checking for a pulse. "He's gone," she said flatly, but her gaze was distant. "Vault Theta," she whispered. They started opening it. Hours later, they reached a safe house, an abandoned ranger station tucked in the folds of the Appalachian foothills. The place smelled of cedar and dust, but there was food, a shortwave radio, and an old generator that sputtered to life with Marcus's touch. As the dim light filled the cabin, Evelyn spread out a tattered map across the table. 7 red circles marked 7 states: Nevada, Virginia, Colorado, Maine, Illinois, Montana, and Louisiana. "Each archive corresponds to 1 containment site," she explained. "If someone controls all 7, they can reconstruct the project's core directive. It's not just about control. It's about rewriting history, erasing who they used." Marcus leaned over the map, trying to process the impossible. "And you think my boss has one?" Evelyn nodded. "He has at least 2, maybe 3. But if Vault Theta is open, then someone else is moving faster." A crackle from the radio made them both jump. A distorted voice came through, male, deliberate, calm. "Evelyn Roth, you're trespassing on restricted property. You were warned. Return the artifact, and your companion will be spared." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Evelyn's hands tightened on the table's edge. "He's alive," she whispered. "Director Hales." Marcus didn't know the name, but from her tone he knew this was the man who'd orchestrated everything. The voice continued. "You think you can run forever? You don't even know what you're holding. The key isn't just metal, it's a genetic cipher. It matches only one person's bloodline." Evelyn's eyes met Marcus's. "What bloodline?" Marcus asked, his voice cracking. "Yours," she said quietly. "You're not just some mechanic, Marcus. Your grandfather was one of the engineers who built the archive's fail-safe locks. You're the only one who can access them without triggering the purge." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then the sound of rotor blades returned, closer this time, echoing off the valley walls. Evelyn grabbed the key and stuffed it into Marcus's jacket. "You need to go," she said urgently. "There's a route north through the forest. Take the truck, follow the ridge until you hit the power substation. There's someone waiting there, a contact. Name's Jonah. He'll know what to do." Marcus shook his head. "I'm not leaving you here." But Evelyn's eyes were resolute. "They're not after me anymore." "They're after you." The windows shattered as flashbangs went off outside, white light flooding the cabin. Evelyn shoved Marcus toward the back door. "Run!" she shouted as armed men stormed through the front. He bolted through the woods, the sound of gunfire following him like a heartbeat. When he finally reached the ridge, gasping for air, he looked back just in time to see the cabin erupt in flames. For a moment, it looked like the fire swallowed everything. The map, the truth, Evelyn herself. But then, out of the darkness, a faint green signal flare shot up from the burning wreckage. She was alive. She'd bought him time. Marcus drove through the night, headlights cutting a path through fog and rain until he reached the substation. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, wearing a hooded jacket and carrying a handheld terminal. "You're late," the man said without preamble. "Name's Jonah. You've got something that doesn't belong to you." Marcus tightened his grip on the wheel. "You mean this?" he said, holding up the key. Jonah smiled faintly. "Yeah, that's one of them. But you don't understand what it opens." He plugged a cable from his device into the key and started running diagnostics. "This thing's coded with your DNA. That means they can track you anywhere. You've already lit up every satellite in their network." The screen beeped, flashing red. "And congratulations, you just pinged Archive 5. Marcus leaned over the console, watching as data cascaded down the screen. Schematics, personnel logs, old photographs. One image froze him completely. A lab room labeled PHX-07, with a younger version of his grandfather standing beside a row of stasis pods. Inside one of them, Evelyn Roth. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered. Jonah glanced at him. "You think she's what she says she is?" He zoomed in on the timestamp, 1989. "She hasn't aged, Marcus. She was part of the original experiment." The realization hit him like ice. Evelyn wasn't just hiding from the project, she was the project. A living relic of the Phoenix program, carrying within her the encoded blueprint for every archive's failsafe. Before he could react, the substation lights flickered and died. A cold wind swept through the open bay doors, and in the distance, headlights appeared, 7 black SUVs moving in formation. Jonah pulled a handgun from his coat. "We're out of time," he said. "They're here for both of us now." Marcus gritted his teeth. Looking at the key, the burning wreck of his past life flashing through his mind, and the sound of the helicopter returning like the beating of some monstrous heart. "Then let's make them earn it," he muttered. The first SUV rammed through the gate. Bullets sprayed the metal walls as Marcus dove behind a generator. Jonah returned fire, shouting something about rerouting the current through the floor grid. Sparks erupted, electricity arcing through the puddles of rainwater as the attackers stumbled and screamed. One by one, the SUVs crashed and burned, but through the smoke came a final figure, tall, wearing a white coat over tactical armor. Director Hales. "Enough," he said, stepping forward. "You can't stop what's coming. The archives are waking." He raised a remote device, and Marcus felt his pocket vibrate, the key glowing faintly, resonating with a deep, pulsing hum. "It's reacting to the master node," Jonah said, eyes wide. "He's syncing it." Hales pressed the button. The ground shook, and in the distance, a column of blue light shot into the sky. The air filled with a low-frequency hum that made Marcus's teeth ache. Hales smiled thinly. The Phoenix was never meant to die, only to sleep. As the light grew brighter, Evelyn's voice crackled through the nearby radio, faint but defiant. "Marcus, listen to me. The archives aren't vaults. They're reactors. Each one contains the encoded consciousness of every subject they experimented on. They're waking up. And if you don't shut them down, they'll overwrite reality itself." The line went dead, leaving only static. Marcus looked at the key, then at the tower of light. The hum grew into a scream. The world itself seemed to tremble. Jonah shouted something, but Marcus couldn't hear it over the chaos. His last clear thought before the explosion was Evelyn's voice echoing in his mind. "The truth isn't buried, Marcus. It's built beneath your feet. Then everything went white." When Marcus came to, the world was burning blue, the forest around him shimmering with static light, the air thick with the hum of a machine older than time itself. Smoke and ash drifted like snow as he stumbled toward the crater where the substation had been. The earth split open like a wound. Jonah was gone. The SUVs were melted husks. At the center of it all, half buried in twisted metal, lay the key, still pulsing faintly in sync with his heartbeat. He picked it up, and the hum in the air quieted, as though recognizing him. Then, through the haze, Evelyn emerged, clothes torn, face streaked with soot, but alive. "You did it," she said softly. "You stopped the sink." But Marcus could see it in her eyes. The storm wasn't over. From the fissure beneath them came a deep rumble, and faint human voices, whispering, countless and overlapping, rose from the depths. Evelyn's voice trembled. The consciousnesses are unstable. They're merging. The ground shook again, and a column of blinding light erupted upward, revealing fragments of memories, faces, screams, experiments, echoing across the night sky like ghosts. "We can't contain it!" Marcus shouted, gripping her arm. "We have to finish it." Evelyn nodded and placed her trembling hand over the key. "Then we destroy it. All of it." She looked up at him, eyes glassy. "You understand what that means?" He did. It meant the archives, the data, everything, including her, would be erased. But she smiled almost peacefully. "I was never supposed to survive this long anyway." Together they turned the key. The light roared, folding in on itself like the universe taking a breath, and then exploded outward in a silent flash that consumed everything. The vault, the project, the ghosts. When Marcus awoke again, dawn was breaking over the valley. The ground was smooth and black, as if the world had been rewritten. There was no sign of the archives, no machines, no Evelyn. Only her pendant lay in the ash beside him. He picked it up and whispered her name, but the wind carried it away. In the distance, sirens wailed, government cleanup or something worse. He didn't wait to find out. He walked until the road appeared again, until the valley behind him looked like nothing more than a scar. When he reached the town limits, he saw a newspaper headline fluttering on a broken fence. "Industrial fire destroys warehouse. No survivors, no records found." Marcus looked up at the empty sky where the light had been and smiled bitterly. They would never know. The truth had burned with her. But somewhere deep inside, the key's faint hum still echoed in his chest, proof that even when you bury the past, some secrets keep breathing.